Hello. Good evening, everybody. Yeah, it's already late in the evening, so to speak. So I hope I can make it short and crisp and have some interesting aspects to share with you. So I want to talk about a smart manufacturing building which we did here in Bangalore. And overall, I would like to structure two ways. I have one theoretical part to lead up to a case study, because when we prepared for that, or when we discussed it with Joe suggested, why don't you take a real project which is actually executed here and not only talk about theory. So yeah, and with that, I would like to thank also Joe and TI Summit for having us here. And yeah, that is the high level of what we are going to talk about here right now. But my first slide is a slide which I thought everybody will have as a first slide today, because it's the 17th sustainability targets from the UN. And since it's a sustainability summit, I thought everybody will talk about that, and I will just repeat what everybody was already talking about it, but nobody had it, so that gives me the opportunity to stay a little bit on that, because I think these 17 goals are super important, and often we reduced it only to one or two, especially in the last couple of slides we talked only about carbon emissions, which is important, but as you see, it's only the number 13 here, so because there are other targets which are also equally important, or even more important, because they interconnect or they are precondition for reaching other targets. And especially the first four are, for me, very, very important, which is obviously no poverty, zero hunger, and health and education. And these are critical because they all link together. So we know, for instance, that unless you reach a per capita income of $5,000 to $6,000, nobody really takes care of the environment. So unless we empower people, it's not going to happen. The other thing is what we also heard in the earlier presentation is how the population will grow until 2050. I would like to take another example for that. In the next 12 years, we expect that 1 billion people will be added to the global population. Now, 1 billion people added means that these need at least decent housing, they need food, and that all needs energy. So that's why looking at energy, I mean, even if you reduce carbon footprint or we reduce consumption of energy on one point, we will need so much more to cover up for everything else. So that's one part of it. Now I'm talking about a green factory or sustainable factory. I mean, the colleague from Bosch has already given us a lot of time about technology can do for us. So that's why I would rather really reduce myself on some aspects on the actual construction of a factory, on the architecture and these kind of things, because not that the other thing is not important, but I think that's something which we didn't really cover here. And these are some 10 interesting points which we need to keep in mind when we want to build or design a green factory, and I would just take out a couple of them which are, I think, important. I talk in the next slide about greenfield versus brownfield. I think important is that a factory is a socio-technical system. That's very important, and there the 17 sustainability goals play a role again, because as we heard already, a factory is also providing livelihood to people. So that means we need to include that all, and that means also we need not only to build a environmental friendly factory, but we need also to create an inclusive environment in the workspace that is equally important for a successful green factory. Yeah, as I already mentioned, we have a couple of aspects or a couple of things which are pretty self-explanatory: greenfield versus brownfield. Now, obviously, greenfield seems to be, and we talk about right now about a greenfield factory, seems to be easier because you can plan a lot of things in advance. You can also keep it ready and make the necessary design by default, whereas in a brownfield you have already an existing entrenched system which might be difficult to change, but again, you need to. There are certain aspects you can still look into it, and it's doable, but it's of course a little bit more needs a little bit more efforts. The only good thing about brownfield is that a lot of things, especially here in India, if you I mean, there's a lot of things which you can still do with the water management, with the energy creation, with solar panels, etc. So for us, what we did for the greenfield factory, we spent a good amount of time, and we had also some help. I think I can recourse to the previous speaker from Altair. We have also connect to Barcelona, because we had an architect and an energy consultant from Barcelona to help us setting up this factory. And what they did first, they analyzed the weather conditions of Bangalore. Now you can say this is common sense, but yeah, it is common sense, and often things are not highly sophisticated. You just have to do it, and that's maybe one key takeaway you can take from this. So if you know where the sun rises, if you know how the wind flows, you can design the building, including some of these natural elements in either cooling it, in having the light flow in your building, in your factory, and that reduces automatically your energy consumption. By the way, reducing energy consumption in your manufacturing process is something every company will want to do, no? Because independently from the environmental aspect, energy is a cost factor. So if you can reduce it, it's a no-brainer. So you don't need sustainability for that. It's just the way to make your business more profitable. So that's one thing. That leads us to how to design the building as such. So, and we came up there with a U-shape building and around a central manufacturing hall. The central manufacturing hall is a normal steel structure, and around that we built all the auxiliary departments, like auxiliary departments for the manufacturing, but as well as all the administrative parts. And that was arranged in a way that we could use that we also designed where to put windows, where not to put windows, how to protect the windows from rising sun or from more sun in the south you have. That's why we put on the south. We put aluminium louvers, so to make sure that the sun doesn't come directly through the windows. I'll have some pictures later on. And yeah, then we looked at certain materials, what we can use, etc., etc. So. And with that, I would like to come straight away to some pictures from what we did. Here we have, and I think this is also interesting when it comes to sustainability, etc. We have combined here the modern structure with some traditional structure, with some traditional construction, and we use for the granite fencing, we use local granite, again, which reduces, of course, transport costs, which is then again sustainable, but again, it includes also, makes it inclusive, not only for the people who work there, but for the whole community there, because a factory is never really alone. A factory is part of a socio-economic environment, ecosystem, and that's why it's always important then when you have a factory that you include it and then create something an experience for the whole community, so to speak. This is the main facade, which I already spoke about. This has these cantilevered concrete elements, as well as the cantilevered aluminium structures for sun protection, because it's the southeast facing facade. Again, we didn't put only glass there, because of having only glass there would heat up the building, and you need then air conditioning. By the way, this whole building has hardly any air conditioning. We have only air conditioning in a couple of meeting rooms for video conferencing, but offices, factories, zero air conditioning. And it's also, of course, a little bit of a contribution to again, a local touch, because cantilevered structures are, since hundreds of years, part of the design here in India. In fact, it's a point where we really have to focus that if you look at older buildings, also older buildings, even in Dubai, they have all these kind of cantilevered or blended concrete in front of the window, so that reduces the energy consumption. At that time, they did it in Dubai because they didn't have big enough air conditions, but it was definitely a mistake to switch everything to poor glazed and poor glass facades in the Middle East, because that's super inefficient in a way. This is the loading bay, or the loading part at the back of the building, where we have, which we designed in a way that the truck can go straight away into the factory. That is, on the one side, of course, protecting the truck and the process from getting exposed to the climate again, be it harsh sun or be it rain, etc. But it also makes it an inclusive process, and I will talk about it in one more big. I have two more pictures. This is the entrance point, and where we have the vertical garden, which is always nice and has also an impact on the temperature in a room. And here we have something which is very special. The whole building is equipped with 5 patios, so this kind of courtyards. And in fact, again, if you look at traditional Indian houses, they also used to have a courtyard. They were built around a courtyard because that also helps you to circulate the air. And this is not only circulating the air, it's also for the light. And it also gives the opportunity to all departments to kind of interact, because everything is somehow connected. So even the accountant can look down or have directly at the shop floor. And when I talk about the truck going straight into the factory and loading the machine, the accountant even sees that something got dispatched today before the ERP tells him that. So that's good. And with that, I give you a final view on the main assembly hall. The main assembly hall, so the company we built this for is for a special purpose machine builder. So the machines are assembled there, and all the auxiliary departments, like a coil shop, like the paint shop, are grouped around, so they again see what's happening. So without big planning, they know how far are we, and you can see on the back, you see the patios again, and you see how much natural light flows in. So again, unless we make big night shifts, we don't need any artificial light to work there. So with that, I guess my time is up, and I thank you very much. And yeah.